And what is up, everyone? I am Joe DeHoyos. I am the host of Beyond the Woodline. Real quick before we get the show started, just want to tell everybody that if you guys have any strange experiences, whether it be cryptids, that includes Bigfoot, Dogman, Wendigo, I guess you can throw that in there, Chupacabra, uh, Loch Ness Monster, any other kind of lake monster, even mermaids, because I have gotten a mermaid report. Uh, you guys have any cryptids, man? Let me know. Hit me up. Any kind of paranormal activity, poltergeists, demons, even angels, uh, hauntings, ghosts, seeing apparitions, spirit. Man, let me know. I love to hear it. And of course, UFOs, aliens. I love all that stuff. I'm actually going to get a guy on hopefully pretty soon, talk about some alien stuff with me and some of his own personal encounters with aliens he's encountered. So I'm gonna try to get him on. Um, and you can always email me at beyond.woodline@gmail.com. I make myself pretty available. If you want to hit me up on Facebook, that's fine. I answer pretty quickly too. And going over to the YouTube channel and give me a like and a subscribe, man. I really appreciate it, and it makes this information get out more and to more people. That's really why I like doing this show because it just I think it helps other people, who are some people are really dealing with major issues, and I think that this show can kind of help them out, and I hope it does anyway. And I've got enough positive response from people, so I know people do like it. But with that being said, tonight I have with me John and April. They're from the Midnight Squatchers. How are you guys doing?
Great. How you doing,
Great. How
Joe?
about you?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Thanks a lot for joining the show, man. I was glad you guys were able to make it. I know last time we had, I think it was my son's birthday, as a matter of fact. Yeah,
Right, right.
we
Yeah.
had to
Right.
Yeah.
cancel
Thanks for
that
having
one,
us
but
here. Glad to be here.
yeah. And what's up, Lupe? Thanks for joining the show. And of course, my sister. Hi, Jessica. Um, yeah, man. So, one of the reasons why I got you guys on because I'm in the Bigfoot. That's like that's in my wheelhouse. That's what I started out doing, and that's probably what I'll always do. If I get a choice between going out into the field with looking for Bigfoot, um, UFOs, or paranormal, there's about a 95% chance I'm gonna take the Bigfoot route. Just because
Sure.
that's in my wheelhouse, and I love it so much. And when you're out looking for Bigfoot, even if you don't get any activity, at least you're sitting around a campfire. You
Oh,
can't
That's
you
for
yeah.
sure.
can't beat that.
Yep.
Whether you're alone or with good people, if you're out there in the woods and nothing's going on, you've always got a campfire, and you can always put some. I don't care if it's some weenies or sausage, on the fire, and have a couple of beers, and you're good to go. You know?
Yep. That's the ticket. That's exactly what we do. We get out there and have a good old camp out. If all in all doesn't work out, and there's nothing going on. You got good food and good company and some good music usually, and a few brewskis doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what got you guys going into the Bigfoot field?
Well, personally, me, I was born in '65, so and I grew up in Monterey Bay, California, Santa Cruz. It's in between this little town called Watsonville. It's a agricultural town. We live right on the coast, and my dad, we had a lot of friends with, owned ranches there. But I always watched all the old monster movies. Was into, of course, the Patterson Gimlin films in '67. We've, I pretty much watched everything on TV that has to do with alien, Bigfoot, ghosts or what have you. So I've always was around that. My mom used to read all the Fate magazines back in the day, since the '50s. So I would always eyeball these magazines, see all the pictures and the illustrations, and it just piqued my interest. And then, of course, in the early '70s, I had a paranormal encounter, which blew my mind. And I blew it off. So my dad thought, I was sick that night. And my dad, he goes, "Oh, you're just seeing things. You're sick. Go back to bed." But I know what I've seen. So that really, after I was only 6.5, 7 years old. After that, I was a believer in pretty much anything that might be out there. It's just I was open minded as a young kid. So
Yeah. What about you, April?
Well, I always was out in the woods when I was a kid and stuff, and hanging out. and I enjoyed that. I mean, I'm a country girl, so I enjoy camping and all that. I always believed in Bigfoot, but I, you know, really didn't get into it too much till I met JD.
That's my nickname.
Yeah.
Johnny Dill Montoya. So most of the
Yeah.
childhood friends call me JD, and you can call me JD as well. It's simple. You can't forget that name. I mean, it's real
Yeah.
easy.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. So, how long have you guys actually been going out? Is that something you've been doing for a while, John? Or
Yeah, I've been doing it, for quite a while. Since the late '70s. 'Cause I used to hunt back then. I can refrain from that now. But me and April met in 2003, and right off the bat, she pretty much. I've been married twice, so me and April have been going on 20 years this year.
wow.
So I met her in '03. Yeah, we had a lot of interest that really were the same. And I don't think she was more into the ghost factor because she had seen that and had a life or death experience herself. So she kind of believed in Bigfoot, but I don't think she really put a lot of attention to it. And then when she met me, of course, this nerdy paranormal guy that likes all kinds of that good stuff that's on TV. And I like to believe all of it's real, but I can't because I know it isn't. But I
Right.
wish I'm like Bobo. If you hear a crack, it's a Bigfoot. I mean, I wish everything would be that way, but unfortunately, that ain't the way it works. But I think that's where she kind of jumped on the bandwagon after that. I assume. That's what at least she tells me.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the more and more I got her into videos and showing her, I'd have old VHS tapes even in 2000 about the old. I recorded them back in the day, so I still had them. I had an old VHS tape. But hey, watch this. So we go down the basement on a rainy, snowy day, whatever it is, and we put on the videos. And the more and more she's seen that, and how they walk, how they move, it's not human. It's different. She got more intrigued by that. And well, here we are 20 years later. Now she's out in the woods with me, and she's totally blind in one eye, which I give her a lot of credit because she can get out in the woods. She stumbles once in a blue moon, but that's she could do pretty good out there with me. And I've had asthma and bronchitis all my life, chronic, and it maybe lit up between I'd say 17 and 27, but I still take meds for it. So I always got a little fanny pack with a portable neb and everything. I said, if I even tell my doctor, he's known me for 20 something years, something happens to me, like I told you earlier, I'd love to be in the woods and just leave me there. I don't want to be in a hospital bed, but I
Yeah.
just take my meds with me. I got more meds than probably you can understand. They have an ER. I can just go out in the middle of the woods and something happens, I'm always prepared, so I can stay out there for long periods of a time. A lot of people probably don't know that about me. I suffer lung issues, but the more I'm out there moving around and doing stuff, especially this Bigfoot research, kind of keeps you going. You got to
Right.
stretch some lungs out.
No. Yeah. Yeah. I totally believe that, man. I think that's true with a lot of illnesses and diseases. People who have like arthritis, they tell them you
Mhm.
gotta move around. You gotta keep
Oh,
moving.
yes, you
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Because if you just sit in your chair all day because your leg hurts or your knee hurts, and I know it's painful because I've got tendonitis and bursitis in both my knees, but if
Hmm.
I sit down too long, man, it gets bad. So walking
Yeah,
helps
you
me
got to
out.
keep that moving.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah,
parts got to be moving. Just
yeah,
of course we have. I know you live in Texas. We, up here in Minnesota. I'm from California. Although I've been here 23 years, the winters is. Yeah, I don't mind them because the best time you find tracks is when it's snowing. I mean, especially a fresh snow. You can see all kinds of tracks. I love going out after it just snowed. I mean, it's one of my favorite times. When I first moved here, a lot of people said, "You don't know what snow is. Go back to California. You ain't know what a possum is." I told them, California gets more snow than Minnesota. And I couldn't
right,
believe they didn't know.
right.
These little small towns.
Yeah, my
But
daughter lives north of L.A. in Hesperia, and she didn't
mhm,
go to work for
uh-huh.
3 days this week because of the snow. Yeah,
I
I know the
know.
weather's been crazy everywhere. I mean, I got friends all over the states, and I hear from different areas, and always get worried. It's crazy. We just 2 weeks ago we just had 14, 16 inches dump here. And
Was
I've
it?
been fighting for 2 days at my house. Is my detached garage sits downhill, so the driveway comes up to it. And this year, because of so much overabundance of snow, the water's been coming in and freezing. So we got an ice ring to get out to our car. So you got to chip away, and it's a pain in the butt. What you need to do is lift up the garage, re-cement it, but that's some coins, so that might be down the road. But this ain't my forever home. This is just a hobby. It's paid off, and we just use it as a hub to go wherever we want to go.
Right. Cool,
But
man.
but yeah, totally. But yeah, we just both love to get out in the woods. We're out in the woods at least 3 times a week if we can get out there, and just around our area. We have access to private property in many locations, and a couple of them had some intriguing. One of them had a Bigfoot sighting, a Class A, where down in southern Minnesota in the Driftless area, which we've been hitting pretty hard for a couple of years now, where the guy actually seen similar to mine, almost a 9-footer, come out and start throwing logs at him and stuff. So that was really interesting. But we can go into that a little later. But that was where we really set up our cameras and been hitting there. So whenever we're not on the road and we got a weekend, we'll go down there and try to hang out during once the weather's nicer, and get out in the woods and do our investigations out there, because we have it's only 55 minutes there, so it's pretty close.
That's awesome. Like where I go research, it's like an hour north of Houston, so it's well within driving range for me. I love it that it's that close. And
Yeah. I
Nice.
guess you're lucky like we are to
Yep.
have access to that, and it's private properties. There's a bunch of farmers there that own different spots. 80, 100, 10 here, 10 there. But there's about 500 acres total, so we've got access to go out there whenever we want. And I can bring a few friends that want to go out with us once in a while, so that's kind of nice too. They're very down to earth country people, country living. They get the shirt off your back, their back for you, so you feel at home. You don't even know them. You walk up there right away, you just feel like, hey, I've known these guys forever. They're just so down to earth. I like
that's
that.
pretty cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened during your encounter, man? What were you doing? What was going on?
Well, back in '97 of September, and before I even get into that, I've always been up. It's called Mount Madonna. It's the mountains up in my hometown of Watsonville, and that connects to Santa Cruz Mountains. And there's a lot of reports all around there. You probably have seen some on TV where down by the Santa Cruz Mountains, where a lady observed it's one of the programs. I don't know which one. I don't remember offhand which one it was. Where they seen a Sasquatch, a juvenile, eat an apple off the ground, and she was eating apple, and he was mimicking her, and that was just right down the road from where my encounter happened. But I've always been out in these woods. I've heard strange screams. I've heard back in the early '90s, I heard the Ohio howl one night out there camping, and it was a long, dragged out, good 35, 40 seconds howl that just sounded out of place. Being out in the woods and hunting, I know what the different sounds are. Now, can I say for sure that was a Bigfoot? No, I mean, I didn't see it. I didn't see it make it, but I'm almost positive that it was. And we did find about a 12-foot style teepee out there, about 8 miles an hour. We're out for a hike 8 miles, about halfway down, about 4 miles, and there's nobody out there. It's just down a trail in the middle of nowhere. We found in a little teeny meadow that was about 100 foot around, right by the woods edge. We seen this 12-foot teepee, which I didn't go to look at because it was hard to get to. And I had my boy with me and another guy that don't believe in it. And I thought that was odd. It looked strange. And the first thing I thought, maybe a transient was living out there, or someone was homeless, maybe just made that. But I wasn't sure, and I've seen these structures over the years, so it piqued my interest. But after seeing that, hearing the howl, one night I was up there sitting overlooking the bay. It's beautiful. You can, pull off and see the ocean, Monterey, Santa Cruz. I was up there, late at night coming home. I'm a late nighter. I'm a night owl. It had to be, about the same time I had my encounter, about 1, 2 in the morning. We parked for 5 minutes, me and my second wife. And we were listening to tunes real low and just enjoying the view. And all of a sudden, this dirt rock went bam right against the window. And I thought, what the heck? And it scared the hell out of me. I mean, you just relaxed, and then you get startled like that. It just spooked me. So I opened the door, and she goes, "What was that?" I go, "I don't know." And I looked on the ground. There's still a dirt mark. If you see like a dirt clod hit a window and leaves a little like like a spot there where the dirt sticks.
Right.
And there was a big rock, a dirt rock that was about that big, and it was in 3 pieces. It was a hard dirt rock. And this is through the redwoods. When I looked up about 50 foot on the hill as this road comes around, there was a bush kind of moving, like something was up on the hill, had been standing there looking, but that was behind the car and we were facing the ocean. This came from the left side, the driver's side. So there's no way a rock can do a boomerang and come back and hit.
Right.
And you get that feeling of being watched. Everybody has that, sense. And I had this feeling like something was not right there. You get that eerie feeling like something's watching you. It was in the direction that the rock came from. So I took it. It was the 90s, and I had been into this subject for many years. I put two and two together, and I thought maybe it's one of these creatures, because I get that feeling. Excuse me. Maybe it's one of these creatures, trying to get my attention for what reasons, I don't know. So I got back in the car, and my second wife said, I don't want to be here no more. Let's just go. She was spooked. So we left. Um, and then, fast forward to a few years later, um, me and my friend George were coming down the backside of this mountain. You can go up, and then there's a park there. And then before you get out of the park, there's a road, Old Mount Madonna Road, that goes down and goes out to the Gilroy side. I don't know if you're familiar with Monterey Bay or Santa Cruz or that area. It's about maybe an hour and 15, 20 minutes south of, not now with the traffic, but south of San Francisco. So it's a little cove. We used to call it Central Coast. Some people call it Northern California. But you can go over the hill and you got the mountains, and then you go down, and then there's Gilroy, San Jose, and it goes up to San Francisco, Highway 101. So we were coming down the backside of that mountain, and we would drive all around that place, way up to Loma Prieta. It's sparsely, there's houses here and there, but not like you would think. I mean, some areas there's no houses for miles. So we were coming back down there about 1:30, and we would stop and having a couple beers here and there. We're just taking a night cruise, and couple hours into it, we're going to come down the Gilroy side on the other side of our town, then drive the Highway 152 back. And about halfway down, it was a bright moonlit night. We had to relieve ourselves. So we I'll pull over my truck. I had a little Toyota pickup at the camper show. And we pulled over and went to relieve ourselves. And my friend George, he's not really scared of anything, doesn't really believe too much in this, but he's open-minded. And he started looking up. We're relieving ourselves, and he just pointed up and he goes, Chit, Chit, Chit. My nickname is JD, Chit, Chit. I go, what's wrong? And I look up, and this is, straight going up a mountain, and there's a little road, and it goes straight down the other side. So you're on the edge of this mountain going down. And I see between two, because it was a moonlit night, full moon. I remember that. And this moon was coming down, lit up a little bit of the trees, and you could see this silhouette of about an 8.5 to 9 foot tall, 4 foot wide creature around them, guesstimation, because it was within about 75 to 100 feet of me up the hill. I get nervous even saying this because I remember seeing it, and it was swaying between two trees, just swaying there, and I could see it from about the thighs up, and the arms are dangling down, but you can see the silhouette. And what always stuck out in my mind, I always say this on any podcast I do, was the shoulders and the head. The shoulders were just humongous. It's like it's proportioned totally different than us. It's like me and April putting our shoulders together and put our head in the middle. It just looked odd. Yeah. And then there was no neck. It was just like a little bump as a head. Again, this was a silhouette. I had a quarter of my long neck Bud bottle, if we pull over to have beer, left. And I said, hey, like that, because I was scared. And why I did this, I still don't know. I was just freaking out. And this thing stopped moving. So then I thought, okay, this is something there. There's no one messing out. I was just nervous as hell. So I took the beer bottle, and again, I don't know why I did this. I launched it uphill, which went about 10 feet and clanked around. I mean, you try to throw anything uphill, it don't go very far. And it clanked around there in the forest by a fern or whatever it was. It was dark, but the moonlit light lit up some of that. And this thing just started sounding like it was coming towards me, walking, like you hear crunching. I don't know if we interrupted it. I look back on it now, maybe it was chasing a deer that we didn't see, or who knows for what reasons, but it sounded, I didn't see no movement, but it sounded like bipedal, coming down, cracking. So I immediately bolted. The car was about 15 feet away. I bolted to the truck, had the windows down, started up the truck, and you can only go about 10, 15 miles down this little dirt road. And if another car's coming and it's narrow enough, you got to back up till they can get through. So again, it was late at night, nobody out there. So I got in the truck and I left. I was spooked. I did not go back to that spot for almost 2 weeks. I took April out there back in 2018. I was going to go down that way. I haven't been out there. I go out there almost every year till COVID hit. And I still sometimes at night, I don't want to go down there. It's dark, it's gloomy, and I don't get scared easy. But when you remember that, I
Yeah.
don't really want to go out there at night. Daytime might be different, but it took me 2 weeks to go back to that spot. And when I looked and sized it up and looked the area, it had to be huge. Um, my dad, we used to take us to a lot of the wrestling matches back in the 70s, and he knew a lot of the wrestlers back then. Andre the Giant, Pat Patterson, all these different wrestlers. The Rock's grandfather, Chief Peter Maivia. And I remember Andre would go up to me and go, "Little Montoya," and shake my head. And I was only like, 8, 9 years old, and I'd look up saying, "Holy cow, this thing made Andre look like a midget." I mean, it
Wow.
was huge. And I'd still try to size it up my house and just remember at times. I just can't believe that anything on this earth can be that big. I mean, on this planet. And
Right.
I don't know if there's anything anywhere. It just don't make any sense.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. That's a great encounter. That's uh, I've never seen one. So I can't imagine. What you saw. But speaking of different witnesses, I mean, they always say the same thing, right? It's the shoulders. Um,
Yeah, it's
you know.
just the way they're proportioned for some reason. You know, I don't know. I know that Daniel Perez of Bigfoot Times, he put me in last April's. I got to write up. It's right here in last April's issue of it. And what's now what this encounter? What's crazy is I'm a big Rams fan. And of course, we won Super Bowl back in 2022 at the end. 2023 season. And we were going back and forth talking about that. And I knew him from Bigfoot Times. But he was wondering more about this after the Rams did win the Super Bowl, and he was talking to me, and he wanted to know more about my encounter. He did not tell me his encounter, or it wasn't an encounter, his story that he was about to tell me afterwards. He didn't want me to know it first. But I told Daniel my encounter, and he was interested, really interested in it. And he goes, "How far is that from Aptos, California?" I told him, as a crow flies, as he would say. I said, "I don't know, 15, 18 miles." So then he relayed to me that they were out there with Mike Droog from the Bigfoot Discovery Museum up in Felton, and they were going to go investigate a possible nest of some type, maybe possibly Sasquatch Bigfoot. Well, they got out there, and it's not, like I said, it's a road that I drove through many a times as a teenager. And he went out there to investigate, and they were in the middle of the road. It was getting towards evening, and he said they heard like a metallic underwater type vocal that went on for about a minute. Just it had, a mixture of like sounds all together, and then the nest turned out to just be a pile of brush someone had put there in the orchard there. But him and Mark Droog of the Felton, there was 4 people there at the Felton Bigfoot Discovery Museum. He said that it's nothing that they've heard. It's not human. It's not no animals that they know of in that area. So he had relayed to that story to me, and I said, "Wow, that's pretty wild." Because that's only if you went down the hill. If you could drive straight down the hill, it would be northwest from where I'm at, just about 15, 18 miles from where I had my encounter. So that really was interesting.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And I know Mark, when I was up there at the Felton, I've met him a few times over the years, and he'll talk. He's so interesting. I don't know if you've ever been to California, the Bigfoot Discovery Museum up in Felton, but Mark Droog is a mountain of information on many subjects. But when I happened to visit him the last time, and this was a few years back, it might have been 2016, 17, he had showed me a picture that someone had found a jawbone, and it looked really human, but it was
Mhm.
about 3 times the size of ours. And unfortunately, the sheriff said they want to take it because it looked human,
Right.
uh, and they would bring it back. He said, "I don't think I'll ever see it again." And I don't
Yeah.
know who had it. I don't remember how the exact story, but he did have a picture of it on his computer, which I looked at. And if you could see a skeleton of a human, its jawbone, it looked about, from the ear down to about halfway, it was cracked. It would, be huge. It looked totally out of place, but it looked human like. It was amazing.
Hmm.
So that was very interesting too. All in
Yeah,
this area too, all in
yeah.
the same area.
Is are there any hot springs in that area?
No, there's a lot of creeks. Little waterfalls run off, make little ponds there that can be pretty
Okay,
deep because the water comes down. Rivers, a lot of redwoods, of course, a lot of forest.
okay.
But
No,
yeah,
'cause
it's
no, I was gonna say I talked to a guy about 3 weeks ago, and he was telling me that when he was younger, uh, he's about 50, 51 now. When he was like 13 or 14, he was hunting in California, but he was near some hot springs. So I forgot where he said those were at. But yeah, he said he saw a Bigfoot. Him and his dad saw it jump out of a tree,
oh,
and
no kidding.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's. I mean, I've heard stories like that, but
yeah,
that's pretty wild. Um,
yeah. He said it jumped out, landed on 2 feet, and just took off running. And his dad told him, "We're never going to talk about this." Yeah,
some people don't want they don't want to remember that kind of stuff. They just want to stay away from it. A lot of people are afraid to get ridiculed, and,
right. Yeah.
and it's
That's
crazy.
right.
It's I am pretty open on the subject. I'm a salesman for a living for a lot of different companies. So when
Mhm.
I'm in the stores, some people think I'm a quack. Some of
Right.
them totally believe me, and some don't really care. They just don't care.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a I can tell you an interesting story about a young kid about 38. He he didn't believe in this. I've known him for a couple of years, and I'm a salesman. So one day he came up to me and says, "Hey, you know that stuff you believe in, all them crazy UFOs and Bigfoot and all?" He goes, "I got a story." He goes, "My grandma lives just about 3 miles or 4 miles out of Claremont, where you live, and that would be north of us because there's not many fields behind us. My whole back property is just my house and then fields, a little highway, and then ponds, and then a state park." So his grandma lives about a half mile away from the state park. He had told me that he was driving when the corn was up, probably September when the corn was real high. He was driving around that area where his grandma lived. She had 100 acres out there, and he was coming home. And he said something crossed the road from in front of him, and it went down the ditch, and it looked at him, and it was on twos. He said it looked like a werewolf. And I said, "Get out of here." And this guy don't believe in this stuff. He goes, "I don't know what you call it again." I go, "A dog man." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "What the heck is that?" I said, "I don't know. I'm a Bigfoot guy. I've heard about him for years, but that ain't my forte. But I kind of know a little bit about him, but I don't know if that's what you're seeing." He goes, "Well, I had a long snout, red eyes, teeth just glaring at me, and he had long arms with it looked like a real physically fit basketball player with like dog legs, and he got a good look. He slowed down, and then when he seen it, he said he got the heck out of there. But he's saying the thing was snarling at him and glowing red eyes, claws, and it just crossed the road real quick, and it stood up almost high as a corn. And it looked at him. I go, "What'd you do?" He goes, "I got the heck out of there." He goes, "And I'm scared to go to my grandma's now." He goes, "I don't believe in this stuff you do." He goes, "But I'm not. I'm a believer now." He says, "I never thought I'd see something like that in my life." I tell him, "Well, thanks for telling me, because I sit out back and have a bonfire and have a beer sometimes on weekends, and I got corn that's 12 foot from my backyard, so now I got to worry about that, and that's only 4 miles out."
That's pretty
So
funny.
yeah, but you never know when
Yeah.
you relay a story on one, and you hear the darndest stories from different people.
Yeah. You know, there was a time when I didn't tell anybody about this, but over the years, I just said, "Bit the hell with it." Not necessarily that I broadcast it, even though I have a podcast, right? I don't necessarily just
Right.
go out and broadcast it, but people, word of mouth gets out, and friends and family will come to me and
Mhm.
say, "Hey, I want you to hear this story, listen to this story," or even they'll say, "Hey, I was out with someone and they told me they had a Bigfoot encounter. They saw a UFO, they saw a paranormal or whatever, they had some kind of an
Right.
encounter or experience, and they'll come and tell me." And
Right.
which I love because that's part of why, like I said, I do this, and um, people know they can come to me and talk to me. So man, I'll take
So
it. And I've heard,
how long have you been interested in any subject? Did you start from young age too, or?
yeah, from a young age, man. I was like 6 or 7 years old, and we had a neighbor that would tell us spooky stories at night, and
Yeah.
you're talking about like the early '80s, right? The late '70s, early '80s. he had so many paranormal and alien UFO stories, Bigfoot stories. You know, he would tell us. I don't even know where he got them from. He may have been making them up for all I know. But if he did a great job. And
Yeah.
I mean, he would tell them with such like intensity, you know.
Right.
And you know, so when I got old enough to start cutting grass and earning money, that's what I did. I would go buy books, you know,
Yeah.
on the subject, any book I could find, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's and then I guess right around 2012, 2013, I started going out and doing my own research and
Okay.
investigations and just meeting a lot of different people. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, I in the '70s it was hard to find anything. I'd go to the library and look up Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot. You had the old Rolodex you pull out and try to look through,
right,
and then go find a book on the shelf. It ain't like nowadays you can just punch it in and go. It was totally different. But there wasn't a lot out there. There was a lot of specials, all the old '70s shows, and some of the movies they had. But there still wasn't. Now it's like everywhere. It's
right,
unbelievable. And I was, during the early '80s, I was out clubbing and driving my '63 Impala and hanging out with the guys. And
mhm,
there was only a few I would talk to, talk about, anything, because a lot of that was ridiculed back then. You didn't really want to tell anybody. They think you're a quack. So,
right. Yeah, and so like even like in high school, I would still have these books, you know, and I would buy these books and people kind of look at me weird, but I didn't care. And then after high school, shortly after high school, I got married, had kids, so I kind of put all that on the back burner. But
right,
once my kids were all like in their teenage years, is when I started going back out and looking and got and right about that time is when all the Bigfoot shows coming out, ghost shows
right,
coming out, the ghost hunters and stuff like
yeah,
that or what have you. And
right.
I just got right back into it, like I didn't even miss a beat.
That's kind of what happened to me. I went through the kids for a little bit, and in the early '90s when I had my divorce, that's when I kind of was able to get out. When I'd have the kids one week, I'd be bored to death without my kids, so I'd get out and go. But yeah, so that area right too, that I was talking about. I mean, I've been up and down California, but another friend of mine seen in that same area coming off Highway 17 on the highway there. He was driving home from work one night late. It had to be 2, 3 in the morning. He's a big wig for some company. He builds bridges around there and contracts and overseas stuff. But he don't. He this guy's another disbeliever, which makes it more credible to me. He
Right,
uh he was coming over the hill on Highway 17 there going to Watsonville, my hometown. And he said it was kind of an overcast night, dark, but he was coming up over the top of 17 as he was going down. He seen these one big figure and a smaller figure come across his headlights up in the distance. And it's a dangerous road, a lot of accidents on that 17, and it's real narrow, 2 lane, but I don't know why it should be 2 lanes, like really a 1 lane with a divider. I mean, if you were to drive it nose to nose and door to door with everybody. It's just scary. But
sure,
he seen these 2 figures come across, and when he got up on him, he must have came up on him too fast. He seen them, so he slowed down. Thought it was a person, but they're all black looking, which he couldn't understand that. And he said they crouched down into like a ball, and they had them little cement middle dividers. They're about maybe
right,
3 foot high. Or he said they crouched down by right in the middle of the road. They just crouched down and just sat there frozen. And it was a little one, a big one. He slowed down, said about maybe 20, 25 miles an hour. And when we went by him, you could tell they looked like a fur, or a bear, or hairy, but they didn't look like a bear. They looked like a person crouched down. But one of them was huge, massive. And to him, he thinks it was maybe father, son, mother, daughter, whatever. But he didn't believe in none of this. He knew I did, but he said, I think I seen one, but I don't want to tell anybody else, so I can't tell nobody his name ever, because he said, I'll get
right,
you if you ever tell anybody. But he goes, I'm a believer in them, but I wouldn't tell anybody my story. I'll tell you about it. We're sitting around dinner at his parents' place, and I thought that was really interesting. Again, same area, it's like a hot spot there. It's pretty crazy.
yeah,
And you know, we've had. I mean, I could talk all night. We've had paranormal encounters. I've seen 2 apparitions. One was around that mountain, believe it or not. One was at a old Victorian house we lived in as a kid. And April's had a Bigfoot sighting too, which I can let her tell you about. And then I can talk, if we have time, about the southern Minnesota part where we're investigating right now.
yeah. Go ahead, April. I love to hear your sighting.
Well, it was nighttime, and it was in February, the off season. we went to Georgia on the way to Florida to stop for the night, and it was raining, storming. I mean, it was just a doozy of a storm, wind, and whatever. And I went down this driveway, and it was black, dark, with woods in it, of course, you know. And we're going to the resort, and we finally got there, and it was like 7 o'clock at night, and we got our key to go to our cabin. Went to our cabin, and we smelt this smell that was like old garbage or whatever. You know, we thought maybe they didn't dump the garbage or something. So we went inside, and my boyfriend went and took a shower. And I was sitting down watching TV and text my mom that we made it to Georgia and everything was okay. And I'll call her when I get to Florida. Well, anyway, I heard, some critters on the outside of our cabin were, bouncing around, and all of a sudden, it one opened up, and I saw this big, massive, black figure. It looked like a Bigfoot to me, and it had reddish eyes. And I was like looking at it, and I was just scared. It was like 20, 30 seconds, and my boyfriend at the time came out, and he looked at me, and he goes, April, what are you staring at? And I said nothing, and he goes, you're not saying much, what's going on? And I said, I'm just tired, from the long drive, and I didn't tell him what happened. And I looked out again, and there was the shutter again, bouncing around. He goes, I'll go shut it. So he went outside and went on the patio, of course, and shut it, and came back in, and he said, there's nothing there, don't, you know, bother, just let's go to bed or whatever. So I was like, okay, and I was quiet, and I didn't tell him anything, and we went on with our, you know, day the next day and went to Florida.
Hmm. I mean, so what happened to you after that? I mean, what were you thinking like the next morning when you woke up? I mean,
Well, I was just, well, to myself, I'm thinking, what in the world did I see? I mean, the shoulders were, massive, of course, and I seen the eyes, and I'm thinking, geez, what is that? And I'm thinking, and it was furry, of course, you could kind of tell the way it was, because all dripping and stuff. And
hmm,
I'm just thinking to myself, geez, I think I saw a Bigfoot, and I believed in Bigfoot, when I was a kid and stuff. And my grandma always used to tell me his, don't go in the woods after dark, and I say, why, Grandma, why? And then when I was little, of course, she goes, Mr. Oofy will get you, the big furry man will get you, you don't go in the woods after dark. So and that was when I was, like 7, 8 years old.
right. So how
The
long
red
did this
eyes,
like stay
the,
in your
the,
mind? I mean, how long did you like think about this?
Oh, I thought about it quite often, and I wanted to kind of like forget about it
Uh-huh.
because I didn't want to tell nobody. And then when I met JD and he started telling me his encounters and stuff, and I told him what I saw, and he goes, did you tell anybody? I said, no, I didn't tell nobody because I thought, God, they're going to think I'm nuts.
Right.
well, as I say, Joe, is when she's talking about the red eyes, I'm sure you've heard of that before. And
Right.
some people say that's the ones you don't want to mess with. There's
Right.
some theories out there. I don't know about all that, but that red eyes, that scared the heck out of me. I know what I've seen. I didn't see no eye shine or anything, but if you've seen some red glowing eyes, as the guy did on whatever he's seen out 4 miles from where I live now, that gets to you because there's no animals that can illuminate their eyes like that. I mean, if you shine a light on them, you can, but
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
they don't glow
Mhm.
red or
Yeah, I've
any
seen that.
color.
I've seen that eye shine twice, but I also seen the. I guess I don't know if you want to call it like the white or maybe like even like a little bluish in it. I've seen
Hmm.
that too. But yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen the red eye shine twice. Um,
Okay.
I don't
Yeah,
know if it's self-illuminated or it's just the fact that they can absorb so much light, in the dark,
right.
and that's what does it. Or
It's very interesting.
yeah,
That even I mean, I know the guy that's seen that dogman looking creature. He said it was literally just glowing the red eyes, and
right,
I thought,
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
that's
The eye shine I saw, it looked like two LED lights.
really
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
wow.
what. Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like.
Hmm, okay.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah,
It
and
is.
this was like a bright reddish, actually maybe like a reddish orange to it. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Amber orangish kind of, or
No,
is it
but it was
more of
definitely more red.
a
More
okay?
red. Yeah, yeah.
But there was a little bit of orange to it. So
Huh.
and then
Tell
like
you,
I said,
yeah.
and then the second time I saw it, it was like whitish, but with a little bit of blue in it. But it was definitely two frontward facing eyes, that's for sure.
Right.
And it was
Wow.
moving
Wow.
through the forest, and it was moving through the forest, whatever it was. And it was tall. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all I
But
saw was just eyes. I couldn't make out anything else.
huh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, I know. Back when I was talking about Daniel Perez, where he was out there, Mark Rug in that same area. Getting back to California real quick, when they heard that scream out there, he had also showed me a video of something they captured, and I got to pick the footprint. I should have sent it to you so you can show it, but it's an odd footprint. It even looks kind of chimpanzee. It's nothing I sent you though. It has like a you know the bottom foot part is kind of sticking out. It is strange, but he showed me the video and it looked like a it's of course it's night vision, black and white. So, but the hair looked small, maybe 6 foot tall, and it was of a creature that was bending down by an apple tree and it was eating something or doing something bent down, and then it must have noticed him. It stood up and it bolted, and this how fast this thing ran was unbelievable in that little clip he showed me. But the hair on it just looked really fine, smooth. It just looked like a young. It had to be a young juvenile because it wasn't all raggedy looking. It looked like it was well groomed or something. That's all I can say. It just came out of some dog shop, and they groomed them all up or something. It just that little quick video just looked really. The hair was flowing. It wasn't all raggedy and sticking up with stuff in it. But I seen that video, and that was interesting too, from the same area. Um, Down around Minnesota, though, again, we hang down south by the Driftless area. You can look it up on the map. And what piqued me in this area was Chad Lewis wrote a book about the forest field. They have caves there. They also got the Harmony. They got the Niagara Caves, which go about a mile underground. We've been there many times. But it's the driftless area where back in the day the glaciers kind of went around that area and it's unscathed, but there's a lot of caves. It's hills, rock faces, creeks. But Chad Lewis wrote of an incident in that park where they seen something like that dog type creature that had harassed a few campers one night. Uh, One of them actually got injured. I think he got a cut on his arm and had to get some stitches. So that piqued my interest. And then there was also on the BFRO site, they had two incidents in that area. And it's Spring Valley. I don't mind telling you where we're at. It's a certain area in Spring Valley, but there was two reports from that area. So I thought, well, it's close to us. It's fine. So a friend of mine that I've known over the years, he moved back to his mom's, and we started talking, and he had told me a story of a few years back of a guy that lives with his mom, and this is where we had access now to all that acreage, that he was out there camping with his boy. Or not camping with his boy, he's out burning some brush with his boy by the wood line there. I think he has 100 acres. And, just sitting around, and it was a big brush fire, when you pile it all up, trees, whatever, and you can burn it on a farm. Um, and he said it was lit up, and he was sitting there, just, I don't know if he's having a beer, whatever he's doing with his son, and listening to music. And he said he heard some thrashing in the forest, and he didn't know what it was. He thought maybe, there's no really bears in that area. They can come, through there. But something was really making a ruckus up in the forest, and the trees started shaking. One of them, a 40-foot tree was just shaking back and forth. Well, he was kind of, weirded out by that. And he said all of a sudden, a log came throwing at his area, a branch or something came flying at him. And then he said, then a rock came at him, and he started hearing these growls and like weird screams. And then he said all of a sudden, within about, I don't know, 50, 75 feet away on the other side of this fire, he said this thing popped out. And it reminded me of my, 8 to 9, I said 8 foot tall. He said it was about 9 foot tall, but it was a hairy creature. It popped out, started screaming at him. And he grabbed his son, who was 10 years old, like around the waist, and bolted back to the house. I mean, he was scared and basically barricaded the door. And I think that maybe his wife at the time, or a wife that was there, I don't know the whole story on that part, because it was from a second party. He had said that she was having music going, and he barricaded the door. She said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "There's a monster out there or something." And she wanted to go out, but he said, "No, you're not going out there." So the next day, he said he heard some thrashing around for a little bit, and then he can hear it kind of going back deeper in the forest, and then disappeared. But he said about another 20 minutes out after he came in, and then he didn't want to go out there. He was just scared. Anyway, he went out the next day, and from what I heard, and I'm still got to talk to this person every time I go out there. He's not there, but I believe the story, because I've heard it now from 4 or 5 farmers. He's actually got a picture, which I can't wait to see, of a 17.5 inch footprint in the ground. And there was trackway of where this thing had came out, stood around, and then went back into the forested area there. So when I get that, I will definitely let you know, and I'll try to bring it out and show everybody. But I don't know what I'm going to see, but they said it was a few of them where it had walked with large strides. And I don't know. I have to measure it. I'll have to look and see what his pictures, will provide. But 17.5 inch footprint, that's a pretty big print.
Yeah, yeah, it's a nice size. That's a real nice size. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So like when you guys go out, what do you guys do as far as what kind of techniques? I mean, are you doing howls? Are you doing wood knocks, or are you just a
Yeah,
couple of
I've
out
got some
there speaking to
speakers.
camp?
Right. We got speakers. We can broadcast different Bigfoot sounds. I don't know if that's good or bad. I've heard pros and cons about both. You might be calling something and saying something you don't want it to them. Nobody knows. None of us does. We don't have a live specimen to study, so we use that technique. I have did wood knocks in the past, but most of the time we go out there and we listen. We're quiet and we listen, and we bring our FLIR. I've got a Leopold pocket FLIR I use. I've got a Psionics color night vision with
Oh,
the
nice.
infrared light, where you can hook it up and it'll actually illuminate the area. It's just a
Yeah.
red. You can't see it, but it really lights up everything. I've got several night vision. We use by our camp. We put sensors out around the area, low, about maybe 2 foot up, hidden in the forest.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, sure, other things could set them off, but we'll put them out within about 100 feet surrounding us. So, and it's just shows a light. It don't make no noise. So if something's or coming into our camp area, we can
Mhm.
detect it by that. It'll just blink and let me know something's there. And we keep that in low. And we put out, we do the peanut butter thing, apples. We leave some food out to see if we can capture anything. I know I was listening to Doug Hijack, who brought up on one of his shows, producer Monster Quest. He's a good friend of mine, and he was talking about the technique where you can get like a 12 by 12. I think Pine Island, Jeff Harden talked about that. We get a 12 by 12 piece of plexiglass. They like stuff smooth, and put it up. And sometimes they've gotten prints off that, real
Mhm.
waxy, greasy prints.
Yeah.
That's a new technique I never thought about, so I'm going to try to use
Yeah.
that
You
when
know
we get
what?
back on.
Yeah, you should definitely try that. And I like to use the chem lights. The kind of lights you get, you shake, you break them, and
Oh yeah,
hang them around. You know,
sure.
hang them around those sensors, or even like if you do the plexiglass, hanging around there. I bet that would attract them in. Because I've heard of
Yeah, I
people
was gonna.
using that before, and that's why
Yep.
I use it. Because someone told me about that. They use it,
Right.
and that they actually saw one hold it up to their face, and it illuminated
Really.
the face.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Joe, after all the years of being into this, never heard of that. I mean, it happens. You might be doing this for 30 years, and all of a sudden someone says something like, how come I never heard of that? It's like,
right, right.
never thought about it. I mean, objects I get, they could touch, glass or whatever, I get that, but I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we use them techniques.
Elabolic ear.
Oh, the parabolic gear we use, of
Yeah.
course, and
Yeah.
recorders. I do a little ghost hunting too. I mean, I like everything paranormal, so I'm not.
Oh, I like
I don't
that.
go out every day doing it, but we do that. We'll stay at haunted motels and do our little thing. But I've got all the meters, and I don't
Mhm.
know if you get into any of that, but I've got all that
Oh
stuff
yeah,
too.
I love that stuff too, and I have gone on a couple of investigations. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's really cool. But I was going to ask you, have you seen any kind of like paranormal stuff like out in the field?
No, we've had some down in Spring Valley recently. There's some really old trees. I don't know what type of trees they are. I mean, they're thick and branched out, but there's no leaves on it. They just look really old. And we were just messing around for the hell of it when we were out, squatching. And I was with one of our team members. I go, let's see, they own he's part of my team. And I told him, let's just, on the way back, go up by a tree and ask some questions. So we had my recorder out, and I was like, does anybody want to say anything to us? And just kind of messing around. And all I say is, you heard, and his name was Adam. And they go, hi, Adam. And he goes, we played it back. We was like, what the heck? And he got goosebumps. He goes, I'm going to get out of here. And he's got an amputated leg. So he's the one, he's got his little amputee. So he has a little limp. And I never seen that guy
Uh,
move so fast.
yeah,
But I was
that's
shocked.
one thing yeah, that's one thing I tell people. I think there's a lot of paranormal stuff out in the woods, out in the forest, and if
Yeah,
people hear footsteps, people hear different noises or voices, and they think automatically that's Bigfoot. And I'm not saying it's not, but I think there's just a lot of
sure.
paranormal stuff that goes on, and people lump it in with Bigfoot. Um,
Yeah.
because
Right.
I've definitely heard walking on 2 feet. A friend of mine, Sean, he was actually out. He had his recorder because he was recording, and he said he felt like something went up to his ear and goes Psst, just like that. But his recorder picked it up
Huh?
too.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
That's cool. And he
yeah.
didn't see anything, notice anything,
No,
nothing out of place. Ah,
yeah,
just that little.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
that's crazy. Yeah, I
yeah,
know people do use some. I got the different go equipment. I sometimes bring them out just to mess around when I'm out in the forest to see if I pick up anything. I know they say you might find a porthole or for who knows. I don't.
right,
I believe, and I want to get that out there. I believe in the flesh and blood aspect to this. I'm open minded though. I'm not saying it can't be anything else, but I'm on that camp, the flesh and blood. I don't know what camp you're in, but and I don't
yeah.
tell. We're all learning this. There's no wrong
Mhm.
or right. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's just me.
Yeah, that's how I am. I don't tell anybody that's not what you saw or that's not what you experienced because they
Sure.
saw it and they
Right.
experienced it. Personally, I think Bigfoot is a flesh and blood creature, but I also
Okay.
think there's other entities and things out there, whether it be paranormal or, hell, it could be a damn alien or just another kind
Right.
of, um, something supernatural. I do believe in supernatural
Sure.
stuff because I've heard
Yeah.
enough
Oh, yeah.
stories from credible people on shit they've seen. Um,
Right.
Right.
so I
No,
do
I
believe that.
totally agree. I totally agree.
But we're coming up on the end of our hour here, and I wanted you to get a chance to talk about your drones real quick, man.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of drones, and I've been kind of doing a little since COVID. I do a little side hustle. I'll just sell them here and there. What I do is I look for different drones, and I've got quite a bit. Like I said, I'm down to about maybe 40. I had 120 at one time, but I try to get a good budget drone that works. That's affordable for everybody that they can use. I do fly DJI products, but there's a lot of them out there that um, they're not DJI. I mean, there's nothing like DJI. They're awesome drones. But if you get a decent drone and you want to fly it up over an area, some of them are under $200 that work pretty good.
Yeah.
So I do fly a lot when I'm out. I like to use and the inexpensive ones I can be a little more crazy with. So if I lose it, I'm not out 5, 6, 700 bucks on my other drones. I will not spend a lot of money on anything. I'm a budget shopper, and if it works, it works. But yeah, the drones. It depends on what you want to know. There's a lot of brands out there under 200 that people can use in the field if they would like to do that.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know what you were looking to
No, I didn't know if you want to tell people how to get in touch with you.
Oh yeah. No, if they want to get in touch with me, they can always look at my Facebook page, Midnight Squatchers, on Facebook, or get a hold of me at. You can just get a hold of me at midsquatchers1@gmail.com. Either way, they can get a hold of me. But yeah, I got a lot of stuff. I wish we could talk for hours on this subject
Yeah,
because
yeah, dude.
so many
I'll have to
reports.
get you back on. I'd love to have you
Yeah,
back
Yeah.
on. I'd like to talk to you more about paranormal stuff. And,
yeah.
Yeah,
I've
it's
got
very cool.
she's had an encounter. April had she went through the jaws of life in a bad car accident, so she actually experienced that out of body experience, which is, and we have
okay.
to save that for another show. It's a great story, and I've had two paranormal encounters where I've actually seen one. But doing the ghost hunting stuff, we've had a lot of voices and a lot of different stuff happen to us. And we do, like I said, we'll look up and say, okay, this place is haunted. Let's go book a room tonight and do it on the either we're slow,
Right.
on the weekdays or somewhere there ain't a lot of people there, so we can have access to even the. I've been to Winchester Mystery House, Moss Beach
Oh,
Distillery,
nice.
which is on Unsolved Mysteries back in the day. Around here, we always try to find something to do. And I love
Yeah.
my music. We know a lot of different bands, so personally, so we hang out with them when we can, and it's fun because you know the bands, and they've been around for 50 years and they're on the circuit. They're well known. A lot of rock and roll bands.
Cool, cool. And do you do like conferences or anything?
We just booked Van Meter days, but we just set up our booth and hang out. I've never did a conference yet. I've asked a couple times, they were asked me about it, but like I told you before, I'd rather be out in the field doing something. I don't mind doing that. I mean, something that I might look in the future. I have
Yeah.
many stories to tell, but we just usually go out to the events, get to mingle with everybody, hear the stories, and set up camp. And we got our merchandise and different stuff. I don't sell it online. I usually sell at the events only. I got casts and T-shirts and hats and stickers and the whole stuff. We got necklaces, all pertaining to usually Sasquatch or Bigfoot.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, eventually that might be down the road. But I'd rather be out, not even in the room. I'd rather be out and about than to be sitting in a room or sitting at a table somewhere. Uh,
Right.
just like to get out and venture.
Mhm. Well, cool beans, man. I really appreciate you coming on, and like I said, I gotta have you guys back on again. We'll talk other stuff other than Bigfoot.
Sure,
But
yeah. Get some of that paranormal stuff going.
Well, thank you for having us.
yeah, no, yeah. Like I said,
Yeah.
I definitely want to get you guys back on, so we need to talk about that if you guys are game. But
Yeah,
other than
sure.
that, man, I just like I said, thanks a lot for doing the show, and I appreciate all the comments in the chat. You guys are always, mentioning something or saying something. Um, so thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it, and
No, it's
I
been
guess
a pleasure, Joe, and
Yeah.
glad to meet you. Maybe one time when we're down in Texas,
Oh yeah.
if you're
yeah,
around, I'll hit you up. Maybe we'll be able to get out and do something together. And we'll
yeah,
be out there. Like I said, we got family and stuff out there, so we'll definitely be
cool,
down there. Maybe hit a
yeah,
couple conferences.
yeah. If you guys can make it down this way, I like to take you to a couple locations.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I seen that picture that you showed me online, of that pig there, and I thought, wow, we gotta get
Oh,
one of them with the skewer and get it roasting.
there you
Get
go.
one of them,
There
have a
you go.
pig fry.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Where's the bacon instead of the beef?
The pork. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. You guys have a good night, and we'll keep in touch, man.
Sounds good, Joe. Thanks for
Thanks.
having us, and you have a great evening.
You too, bud. Thanks.